The 8th Root Army in a battle and unexpectedly snapped them all. Sounds like a side story, but it really happened. This Fire Japanese Army name sounds quite tall. They were part of the Kwantung Army. Ace team with hard cards. 5x top training is also one of the best. And these people are all nobles in Japan. A good martial arts practice since childhood. He is a fighter on the battlefield. Also bragging a good hand. I often quarrel with myself like a cultural person. The leader is still a big shot. Dancing Sutian is his name. This guy is a celebrity on the front lines. Fame. He fought in any war during the September 18th incident. Just a squadron. Meet the Japanese bosses. You have to be polite. As soon as the teams of these nobles go to war, the 8th Root Army killed them. Let them break on the wayward road. It's not just in our fryer anymore. Even the inside of Japan has exploded. The arrogant flower of the aristocracy was regarded as a weak chicken puppet army. The whole script went awry. This victory of the 8th Root Army was not groundless. This reminds us that no matter how fierce the opponent is, as long as we are firm, with enough resourcefulness and courage, the same can win the battle. In July 1940, Japanese dancing cavalry squadron, full of confidence, drive the horse to the Panshan area of Jijo, Tianjin. Whose place is this? It is the hot soil where our anti-Japanese base is located. I don't know if the Japanese intelligence is not good, or their share. The self-righteous arrogance of the child. They didn't know. He broke into our territory. We've seen it all. Speaking of which, two heroes. One is called Liang Zi. A young man named Gao Deshang. Gao Tengji was only 14 years old at that time. But it can be regarded as Lo Tzu Li in the 8th Root Army. They had gone out to seek information. Who knows on the way back? I heard the sound of horses' hooves in the mountains. All of a sudden, the two of them knew. It must be the Japs again. After further investigation. Don't walk in broad daylight. Walk at night. This is not delivered to our door. What is it? Yang Zi thought. It's too late to report this back. And he was willing to sacrifice himself. A plan to distract the enemy. Just let this kid Gao Dezang hurry back to the base camp. Briefing. The bastard's Japanese army just left not long ago. Stopped in a small village. Maybe they're still dreaming? This devil's life is about to be ruined by us. This means that the so-called flower of nobility. The dancing cavalry squadron. I thought I was invincible? It didn't take long to be arrogant? It was wiped out by the 8th Root Army. In 1940, the story took a dramatic turn. Our army, actually. The undead Japanese Ace Force. As a puppet army. After the fight, he actually raped the other party. There were 2 reconnaissance heroes at that time. After encountering the Japanese army, say nothing, immediately rushed back to the base. They arrived before dawn. Yang Zi and Gao Dezang. You can't even get on the boat. To report in a hurry. And the commander at that time was no ordinary person. Mr. Peng once said, "The steel village of the Kwantung Army is very strong, but the strongest anti-Japanese hero in his eyes. It's our person in charge, Paulson. You may have heard of Double Gun Li Xianyang. It's a bag of forest shipped by an architect on the anti-Japanese battlefield. His name is famous. It gives Okamura a headache. If the Japanese puppet army encounters Beosen's mistake, that's a dumb loss. Nowhere to say leave. This Baikao Dam battle, it is another top record under Paulson. Undoubtedly once again confirmed his legendary status. Panshan Base. It is also an anti-Japanese fortress built by Beosen. Here it is. Even the elite soldiers of the Japanese Kwantung Army. You have to take it easy. In the first few months of 1940, Beosen led more than 200 anti-Japanese tough guys. Already in the Panshan area, established a strong base. Worked for more than 2 years. This place has grown too. Enough to pose a threat to the Japanese army. It's not just our brothers in the 8th Root Army here. including anti-Japanese veterans from the Northeast, and local self-organized anti-Japanese guerrillas. This is really everyone's share. There's two scout heroes, Yang Zi and Gao Dezhang. While discovering the movements of the Japanese army, there's a conference going on in Panshan. More than 200 cadres participated. Because of this, referee Paulson and the others went to investigate. Who would have thought? The Japanese actually came here as planned. When Paulson heard the news, not only did I not panic at all, instead, he laughed. According to the information we have, the Japanese are in this area. There were no cavalry units. Bosun judged immediately. These enemies? Probably some weak puppet army. I want to see a famous Japanese man pretending to be an uncle here. If it is really the trump card of the Japanese army, we may have to consider. But when encountering this kind of puppet army hum, then you have to teach a hard lesson. Takamori opened the table. Quickly organized the starting team. Ready to give this group. The audacious enemy is a disgrace. Although the true identity of the enemy was previously revealed. I missed it. But now that it's a showdown, we have to do our best. Paulson chose a terrain that was complex. Rough terrain. A place called Baikawa as the battlefield of the sudden annihilation. In 1940, when our country's army confronted the Japanese army, the ace team made a wrong estimate. Treat it like a puppet army? I didn't expect it. In the case of significant disparities in weaponry, still completely defeated the enemy. This amazing achievement made the world's eyes widen. At that time, the general in charge of the 8th Route Army, Bao Sen, decisively chose the tactic of unprepared attack, led more than 400 officers and soldiers in an ambush, prepared to annihilate the enemy in one fell swoop. About 6 a.m., the Japanese army entered the Baikau Depression area unscrupulously. Bosun looks through the telescope. Accidentally discovered his own misjudgment by observing enemy flags. He immediately recognized the dance, the true identity of the cavalry squadron. It is not as thin as previously envisioned. Weak when army. Although the number of people, our army has a clear advantage over them. But cavalry, with its high mobility, it has always been considered correct. The natural nemesis of the infantry, but Paulson didn't flinch. After all, the enemy is obviously coming for the base area, and more than 200 cadres gathered in the base area. We must intercept this sudden attack. Angry, Bao Sen made up his mind to take advantage of the favorable terrain occupied by our army in advance. Fight to the death. Even in the face of the elite of the Japanese army, who are far better equipped than themselves. Never take a step back. As the battle broke out, the Japanese really launched their cavalry charge. Our soldiers resisted tenaciously, and a cool head. Use a grenade. Created a huge fireball and smoke. Successfully stopped the flood of Japanese troops. Then, the sharpshooter company quickly attacked. Destroyed more than 10 enemy troops. In the complex and changeable terrain of Baikawa, our companies worked closely together. Relying on the hidden power of mountains and forests, shot down more than 20 enemy troops. After a 14-hour battle, except for one Japanese player who managed to escape, all other enemy troops, including a man who was seriously injured and in a coma, a total of 76 Japanese soldiers, exterminated by our army. For a while, the so-called noble flower of the Japanese army has completely withered. This Battle of Baikawa. It immediately caused an uproar at home and abroad. Raises Bosun's reputation. The Japanese army resented him deeply. But there is nothing we can do about the clouds of our army.